Hi guys, we're the Jersey Comic Crew, and on today's video we are talking WandaVision Episode 5 on a very special episode. Stay tuned for a breakdown of all those Easter eggs and high impact moments that you might have missed.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Jersey Comic Crew. Chris and Rob here talking WandaVision Episode 5. As always, the best episode of the series. Every week it gets better. Every episode gets better.
I'm wiping away the tears that I had.
Oh yeah, this is a crazy one. We have a lot to break down. We have a lot to go through, Easter egg and story-wise. Everything was a major story beat in this.
Oh my
God. Spoiler warning right now.
Yes.
If you have not seen it, go see it and then come back. We will still be here. And you can watch through this with us together, and we can break this all down together. So, Rob, let's go with these recaps.
Guys, we're going to hit this hard and fast like the first two Fast and Furious movies. We got this. So, the opening we wanted to talk about again. So, now we're in the 80s. We're seeing these homages to these 80s sitcoms. We see Family Ties in there with the painting and the pictures. And then towards the end, we see the Full House on the picnic on the lawn and the zoom out, which is really cool.
In the beginning, they have this sign that says greetings from Westview, New Jersey, which immediately made me think of Bruce Springsteen. I don't know if this is a direct Easter egg or not, but to me, it's totally an Easter egg for New Jersey, because the boss is from New Jersey, and his album Greetings from Asbury Park, New Jersey, is one of his biggest albums of all time. So that's what I immediately thought. I was like, oh, and it was kind of in the same font, so I thought that was pretty cool.
So next thing we want to talk about is Agnes not being part of the show, right? Not being mind controlled, right? When the twins are, crying and like freaking out, automatically doorbell rings and Agnes comes in, and Agnes, wants to help Wanda and Vision, rock them and do all this kind of stuff. And then Vision kind of talks to him and says, you know what? Let's just not. You don't have to do this. Don't worry about it. I could take it. And then all the comedic timing of 80s sitcom stopped. And Agnes turned to Wanda. I was like, do you want me to take that again? Should I take it from the top? What exactly do I need to do in this situation? And I'm like, whoa, she's breaking character. She's not under control. But she realizes that she has to act along to Wanda's theme or wishes for the show. And Vision, as the automaton gaining his intelligence back, is, fighting against it. So obviously she is not a part of the show, but she's playing along.
It was crazy because they give you this beginning part where she comes in her jazzercise outfit and she's doing funny stretches while rocking the cribs. And she did some twerking thing that was funny. And then she breaks that character while Vision is already kind of skeptical. So this to me, and I think to everyone else, tells me that Agnes isn't part of the show and possibly is the one kind of either keeping Wanda calm or working with her in helping her do things, because she shows up at perfect times. She's
essentially enabling Wanda to have these visions, right? For some reason, I'm sure we're going to realize later in the show, right?
Yeah.
So now while Vision and Wanda are pulled off to the side talking about what just happened, Agnes is taking care of the babies behind them, and then we hear the crying has stopped. Wanda turns around, and then we see that the kids are gone, right? And then they reappear. They're 5 years old. And then Agnes is sitting, drinking the scotch, saying, kids can't control them no matter how much you try, which might be a direct Easter egg or a notice saying, hey, these beings are yours and your creation. They can't be controlled, just like Vision can't be controlled because they have their own power. I don't know what that means. It could just be a throwaway line.
It could be. And there's also a storyline in the West Coast Avengers, which is a great book, that details this dark Scarlet Witch storyline. And in it, as we saw in the show, specifically in the beginning of the show, every time Wanda is kind of talking to someone else, like Vision or Agnes, or she's doing something in another room, we don't really see the boys, right? We only see them when she comes back into view. And in the storyline, it's prior to House of M, the big Wanda story. Yeah. She starts to kind of lose it in this storyline, or starts to deteriorate. And other members of the West Coast Avengers are starting to realize, hey, do you notice every time Wanda isn't looking at her kids, meaning Speed and Wiccan, she looks away and they kind of just disappear. So people are starting to wonder, are they there? Is Speed doing something where he speeds away with Wiccan and they're all
that's a deep cut. Okay.
Or is it hey, no, she's not. She's talking to no one right now. And when she's not focused on them, they aren't there in reality.
This could be like an unintentional Easter egg that they put in there and didn't. Because like you hear this all the time with like creators of these shows and movies. They do things and I'm like, oh, I didn't even realize that's an Easter egg, but I'm going to take credit for it because like, why not? Like this might be one of those moments.
Maybe we also know Kevin Feige's very good with like getting these little bits and pieces into the storyline that is from the comics. So I don't know. To me, this is definitely a question mark though.
Speaking of a question mark, we got to look back at the real world. We shift our focus to the real world. Monica Rambeau is in a hospital bed. She's getting tests done. She gets the test results back, and it's blank. Now, immediately, us big comic fans are like, maybe this is her powers. Because, like, in the comics, she could turn into energy. This might be, maybe she just got the powers from Wanda. Maybe she just got it from before with Carol Danvers. We'll touch a little bit more about that later in the episode, right?
Yes.
So then we cut to the debriefing room. Hayward is running this fully. He says that we know that Wanda is the principal victimizer here, right? He says that she's causing all this. Monica and Jimmy Woo were kind of like going back and forth against him, saying, hey, Wanda's not in control here. She's not a terrorist. Like, she's a good person. She's an Avenger. Monica even goes so far as to say, Wanda has no inclination to destruction or any political agenda. So she's not a terrorist. Like, she's just grieving.
Yeah, no, exactly. And the issue here, right? One is, like, Hayward seems to be on the negative slope, which we'll talk about a little later. But also one of the biggest kind of little things is that they start talking about, like, her superhero name. Like, what's her other name? Or what's her code name like from the Avengers? Yeah. Her alias. She doesn't have the title of Scarlet Witch yet, which I was like, wait, what? Is it just me? Or did I not realize this the whole time? Yeah. So she's not technically the Scarlet Witch yet. She's still just Wanda Maximoff and never got her superhero name yet.
She might get it in the show. She might be called the Scarlet Witch in the show.
I think that's what's going to happen. That part of this arc is going to be she's going to become fully the Scarlet Witch.
Another cool thing, Hayward has a security footage. Now, this security footage apparently was supposed to be a after credit scene in one of the movies, and they saved it. I didn't know this.
Endgame.
In Endgame. Was it Endgame? Okay. So we saw the security footage. This is Wanda breaking into Sword headquarters. Sword. I always say that.
Sword.
Into Sword headquarters, getting Vision's body. Now, Vision's body is all disassembled. He's broken apart. And it's obvious that Sword is looking at it, trying to get some kind of information.
Also, that last shot where you see Wanda kind of enter this lab and Vision sprawled out is almost like a one-to-one of the West Coast Avengers issue 43. The final page of this gorgeous John Byrne drawn 80s comic is Wanda finding Vision in Sword. What's left of him, like sprawled out on a table, like his inner workings. Just a great one-to-one ratio shot.
After we see the footage, Hayward continues to hammer down his agenda. He points out that resurrecting Vision would be in a direct violation of the Sokovia Accords. He further says that Maximoff, Wanda, in her grief, is disregarding the wishes of Vision and everybody else around her.
Again, this tit for tat of like, yeah, she's doing this, but there has to be a reason why. Like, we should be trying to figure out why or what's causing this instead of like decriminalizing her even further. Yes, she has a whole town hostage, right? But the Sokovia Accords by itself obviously is from, you know, the post of Age of Ultron after they destroyed Sokovia to kill Ultron, as well as the entirety of Civil War, which comes out of that with the Superhero Registration Act. And Hayward's angle, man, like, what is his angle here? It seems like he wants to go against Wanda. We'll definitely have more on that later. I have some theories.
It kind of seems like, real quick, to address that point, you see this a lot in movies and TV shows of these military men, usually it's men, right? These high up military men, and their way to solve the problem is with aggression. Like, oh, we need to fight this. We need to shoot it. We need to destroy it. And it's very cool to see, like, the quote-unquote social norms. Like, the person on the other side is, Monica, a woman, saying, hey, listen, aggression might not be the solution here. Let's talk to them. Let's kind of calm it down. It's cool to see that play off on the big screen on bigger scales. And
absolutely.
I just loved it.
I don't know if Hayward knows how dangerous this could be. Also, how the hell did he just sit on this video that he had 9 days before the situation happened, sent Monica into this, and didn't tell her about that video? Well, that's suspect.
I don't think, I agree, that's a little sus, right? But I don't think he knew that Wanda was there. So that's why he didn't say that.
Maybe, I mean, but Agreed. It's a missing persons case, but I don't know. To me, I don't trust him as far as I can throw him, and I think I have some theories on him later.
I agree. I don't really trust him. Moving on, we go back into the home in the 80s, right? And we see the two boys, Tommy and Billy. They're standing by the sink, trying to hide something. It's the dog, right? They have a dog there, and we now know the dog's name is Sparky because yet again, who comes in at the perfect moment with always exactly what they need? Agnes. Agnes comes in with the doghouse. Vision's sitting there like, hey, this is a little strange, right? The dog gets the name Sparky. And Sparky, for those of you who don't know, we talked about this a couple episodes ago. That's a dog from the Tom King's comic book run. It's a little green dog, but they're making a subtle nod to there. And Vision, wasn't quite happy with the whole scene of what's going on.
No, he was not. And Vision was in the background reading a newspaper. And this newspaper is interesting because it's the local homemaker's innovative recipes that he was reading. But when the boys start talking about the dog and Wanda brings him in, he folds the newspaper in half. And when it folds in half, it has the letters HOM on it, meaning Home. House of M. So that was like, that took two watch throughs, people. That was not on the initial watch through.
Did you? Do you see people like breaking down the architecture and the set design for this episode as well? So, like,
oh my god!
The curtains have an M.
Yeah.
The chair, there's an M and a W. I'm like, well, all right, let's. We're doing Easter eggs. I get it, but that's a little like.
Well, one thing that's crazy deep I did notice was they actually had in the living room an NBC Peacock kind of table setting thing.
What? Really?
And the reason is because Family Ties in the 80s was on NBC and it became like the biggest sitcom ever. Oh my
god, that's
so
cool.
It was kind of a tie-in to like what they were doing theme-wise.
That's awesome.
If we really want to go deep cut.
So now we cut back to the railroad, right? Monica, Jimmy Woo, and Darcy are trying to figure out a plan to get back into the dome. Darcy calls it the hex, right? He's like, it's because there's a hexagon shape. They're trying to get back into the hex. And the hex is another reference to the comic books where that's what Wanda's magic is called. It's called hex magic, right? Monica pretty much says, hey, I need to create this essentially thermonuclear shelter that's mobile that I could get into there so that way I could keep all my memories to try to talk to Wanda. And I know just the perfect aerospace engineer who might be up for the job.
Yeah, that's a big one, and that's definitely going to be in our theories and speculation video next. So make sure you guys and gals, check that out.
Shameless plug right there for ourselves.
Shameless plug, absolutely. That's going to be a big theory we're talking about.
So moving on, right? Talking about the strength of Wanda, right? They're saying Wanda has the power herself that she could have beat Thanos before Thanos bum rushed her with all these other people.
Yep.
And then Jimmy Woo says, you know what? Captain Marvel probably had a good chance too. She probably could have taken him on. And then we saw visually Monica Rambeau's face start to twinge and like get disgusted. And obviously like she's upset that they mentioned Captain Marvel for some reason, Chris.
Yeah, that was a very interesting moment where I think that's going to be very integral to Monica's story. Mm-hmm. The same way that shot in the last episode of Wanda kind of turning into this dark evil presence was. My only thing with this is we know Monica Rambeau as a child was in the Captain Marvel movie.
Yeah.
She looked up to Carol, right? Like she was friends and she would change the color of her suit and they would hang out at her house. She knows about Skrulls, which is another big thing in this universe. Mm-hmm. Could Monica have this like pent up animosity because from Endgame's perspective, we know Carol's been in space for years.
Correct.
Dealing with situations that, hey, you're the Avengers on Earth. There's stuff going on like this everywhere that I have to deal with as well. Mm-hmm. Could it be this pent-up animosity where it's like, hey, you never came back to see me. I grew up like waiting for you to come back because you were my best friend and you were my mentor and hero, and you never showed up? Or possibly could it be something with Monica's mother, Maria, where Maria died and maybe Monica thinks that Carol wasn't there for her? Well, because she found out so late.
To address this point right now, because it's small, it's not too crazy. Mm-hmm. I think that conversation happened already, of her saying, "Hey, you left me," stuff like that. But I think this conversation happened in space when Monica was doing a sword mission, because we know Monica was out in space doing missions. So yeah. I think they did that, and then I think that we're going to see a lot of that in Captain Marvel too. Now we get to Vision's work scene, and we haven't seen this. Vision go to work in a couple episodes.
Yeah.
But he's at the Computation Center, whatever you want to call it, and then they get an email, right? And it's from an Agents Forward. It's from Darcy talking about the Hex situation, and they all read it out loud at once, which was very weird, very creepy. Yeah. And Vision's like, "What's going on?" I thought Vision was going to reply to the email, but he didn't. Instead, he looked at Norm and somehow touched Norm and made Norm snap out of it, saying, "Hey, where's my family? Where's my sister? Where's my dad? Like, I need to get out of here. She has us trapped. Like, this is not good." And Vision doesn't know how to process the whole situation and kind of puts Norm back into the Wanda reality, man.
Yeah, that was nuts. That was something where it was like, oh, okay, this is clearly, and Norm is also saying, like, it hurts.
Mm-hmm.
Make her stop. Like, he's pleading with Vision, like, please make her stop.
Yeah.
And Vision is starting to realize what's going on. And yeah, again, I don't know the extent of Vision's full power set at this point, where he can kind of like, again, the Vulcan mind meld thing comes to mind, and he kind of like reprograms him back because he doesn't know how to deal with it immediately, and he's kind of trying to figure it out himself. But that was a big situation where, like, yes, these people are controlled by her. Yes, they are in pain. Again, I don't think Marvel's going to take the route simply of like the crazy lady is going nuts in this story and it's just Wanda. I think there's going to be a mix of it's Wanda, but maybe she's being manipulated harder and they're twisting the knife harder and it's making it worse. We'll see. But it's a great scene.
Speaking of, twisting it, things getting, upset and more difficult, we have the drone scene, right? Yeah. Monica realizes, hey, if I send the drones that were made in the 80s in there, it might not get changed. I might be able to still control it. She gets in there and she starts talking to Wanda, and Wanda's like, nah, I'm not really having this, but like she's entertaining the conversation. And then Hayward out of nowhere says, take the shot. And I'm like, what? She's a fucking Avenger, man. She destroys worlds. She almost killed Thanos. And
have you seen any 90s action movie with Nick Cage? It doesn't work.
Shoot a missile? She shot a missile, and she's like, what? What are you doing? Alarms start going off. They all run outside. And then you see Wanda comes out, like full, like old school Wanda gear, like when we first saw her in Age of Ultron, with the accent again, the Sokovian accent.
Yeah, it was coming in and out.
And she's like, this will be your only warning, and to stay out of my home. You don't bother me, I won't bother you. I have everything I need right here. And Monica's trying to talk to her, and then Hayward is like trying to diffuse the situation with this toxic masculinity, like, hey, we got guns here. We can do this. We have all the guns pointing at you. And she's like, you have all the guns pointing at me. Throws the drone. Switch all the guns to point at him, and then just walks away.
Whoa, we're cool now, right?
Right? And he's like, whoa. And then she does something to the sphere, right? Like more energy gets pulled into there.
Double shield.
Right? She just double shielded up. She put up a mirror wall from fucking Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah.
Says, nobody come in here. I'm protecting this thing.
Mirror force.
Right? Which was just crazy to see, like, her anger comes in. And then we get a nice, lovely commercial break. Right?
Yeah. And obviously every commercial break's an Easter egg at this point, right? Mm-hmm. This one was pretty sinister. This was the commercial break for Lagos brand paper towels.
Yeah.
And the tagline was like, clean up any mess you don't wish to make with like spilled red wine, which was symboling Civil War. Clearly, the beginning of Civil War.
Well,
obviously,
what is Lagos for people who might not.
Lagos is the city that gets, half blown to hell with Crossbones, where he blows himself up, and Scarlet Witch is trying to contain the blast as she's working with Cap and Winter Soldier and all this. And they blame Scarlet Witch for all the deaths and the carnage that happens in Civil War, which begins the Sokovia Accord, which begins Civil War. And again, this paper towel brand is like, you didn't mean to make this mess. Clean it up with Lagos paper towels, and it's wiping away this red wine, which is symbolizing all the blood on her hands. So that was crazy to me.
It's a little mean and rough, but
talk about nail in the head. Like, it was just like legit. Like, hey, you killed all these people. Clean it up.
Well, speaking of that, like, we get to the final fight scene, right? And I don't mean like physical confrontation, right?
Yeah.
Vision comes home and confronts Wanda and says, hey, Norma's a person with a real family. What are you doing? What's going on? I'm like, oh, wow. And then, like, they start to talk, and then Wanda starts, like, the credits start rolling. And I'm like, holy shit, is the episode ending here? Like, that's crazy. Like, I thought if they ended the episode there, like, mid-fight with the credits rolling, I would have been like, wow, that's cool. Like, even if they did it there, I'm like, wow, that was good. That's good TV. Like, that's awesome. Like, that's insane. I was so
It's an
hyped.
FU to the audience.
Right?
I love it.
It's an FU to the audience, but it's great. It just works with it, right?
Yeah.
And then he walks by. It's like, you're not ending this on me. I'm like, oh, Vision Daddy. And then he starts flying in the air. It's like, what's going on? And then she goes up. She's like, you never talked to me like this. He's like, why are there no children here? What's going on?
Yeah.
Like, nothing's going right. And like, they keep fighting. And then the doorbell rings. And then she's like, I didn't do that. I swear. He's like, statistics tell me it's otherwise. Like, you did this. She's like, no, I really didn't. Like, I don't know. And this fight signifies, before I get to us at the door, right, that like Wanda, it starts to realize like that she's controlling some of this. Like Vision said in that argument, hey, I believe this started out with you not knowing what's going on, but now you know what's going on and you're continuing to do it. Like, I think she doesn't fully understand, but she's understanding more and more, and she's not letting Vision in. Obviously, because if Vision knows that he's dead, this might all throw everything to chaos, because he was reborn and he's alive in this world, I guess, as long as he stay within the Hex. I don't know. But we get to the door. It's not Domino's, right? I was very upset. But we see,
here's your pizza.
We see white hair, and I'm like, who's white hair? I was like, at first I thought it was Doctor Strange. I'm like, oh, Doctor Strange. Just the huge
I thought it was
cameo
Doctor Strange.
moment,
I thought it was gonna be Doctor Strange.
Like Elizabeth Olsen talks about like this huge cameo moment. I'm like, all right, who is this, right? And then we see it's silver hair, and I'm like, oh, okay. I have no idea who this is going to be. I was like, is this Old Man
yes,
Cap?
you did.
No,
yes,
no.
you did.
I said, I was like, is this Captain America? Like, what is this? What's going on here?
It's Tony Stark.
And then it's Quicksilver from the Fox universe.
Yep.
I lost my mind. I started screaming, yelling. I flipped that table. I broke my house. I fixed my house. I did everything in a second. I couldn't do it. He's like, hey,
you must work for one of those condo companies.
Yeah, I buy and flip houses with his for reactions
and build them in a minute.
Exactly. And he's like, hey, sister, what's going on? And
Yep.
I'm like, what? This is so much more important than you're realizing, sir. What are you talking about? And then Darcy on the other side watching, she's like, she recasted Pietro? Like, what's going on?
That was
and
great.
Then Peter is like, who's this popsicle over there? And then the credits roll. Oh my God.
That's big.
It's the biggest moment in the MCU history, in my perspective. I don't know.
It might be.
Or the rest of you people.
I mean, this is, again.
God. Talk. I need
Evan Peters is the more popular of the Quicksilvers.
He's a fantastic actor.
And he is, from the Fox universe, from the X-Men universe. This is, talk about House of M style.
It's a multiverse of madness, right?
Lot of people. There you go. A lot of people thought this would be, this is now bridging the gap to mutants. This is now bridging a gap to the X-Men being reborn in the MCU. It has to be somewhat if he's real. If he is real.
Oh.
If he is real.
So.
Because here's the other thing where, like, Pietro is dead. And his body, in this universe, his body is not there. It's wherever he's buried, probably in Sokovia. Or what's left of Sokovia.
Yeah.
And we know that the twins are real somehow. They have been, manifested.
We assume that they're real, right?
We assume they're real. Jimmy and Darcy think they are real. And they think that they were manifested. They can't find IDs for them. Vision even says in this fight, right, there are no children in this town. I walk to work every day and I see an empty playground. Why are there no kids? I personally think Wanda, in her moment of clarity before she went mad, like got all the kids out of town so they wouldn't have to be hurt by what she was doing. And I think that, again, in this hex bubble, let me read that. Again, in this hex bubble, almost anything is possible. So her recasting Pietro as the Fox is either two things. One, really mean to us as fans, because it's like, here's this little remnant of mutant Fox, but then they're going to take it away because he's not real. Or it's actually a manifestation and he's real. And that's a possibility.
Well, all right, guys. So before we start talking for another 2.5 hours, that is our discussion and our breakdown of all the Easter eggs from WandaVision episode 5, a very special episode. Now, for those of you who want more, who want to go deep diving into these theories and what's going on, pay attention, because later in the week we're gonna have a theories episode. We're gonna talk about these theories in full. Let us know down in the comments below what your favorite Easter egg was here. I think it's gonna be, everybody's gonna have the same thing. It's gonna be Pietro, but maybe your second as well? What's 1 and 2? Let us know down below.
And guys, thanks so much for watching. Give us a thumbs up, like. If you are brand new, subscribe, turn on those notifications, join the crew if you want to. And we are, because we are here, and the crew, we just figured out it's slightly pirated. And as always, I'm Chris. That is Rob. We are the Jersey Comic Crew, and we will see you next time.